This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Passaic County Chapter November session. My name is Gisette Rodriguez, and I am one of the co-chairs of NJTESOL-NJBE's Passaic County Chapter, alongside with Mary Calirgos and Maria Jaume. We have Kathleen here from the Executive Board. She's joining us also. Today, we are presenting a session called Special Education Strategies for Classified ELs, and we have Stephanie Riveros here with us.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining. Let me know when you want me to start. Should I just start? Okay. So I will be presenting today. So my name is Stephanie Riveros. I'm a special education teacher, in-class support teacher. I've been working as a special education teacher for 9 years. I have a bachelor's in elementary education, K-6, and special education co-major English, and a master's degree in leadership. So that's just a little bit about myself. If you want, before going into education, I worked in fashion, so it was like a big shift. You know, it was definitely a big shift, only because I wanted to do something that was meaningful, and going into education and educating special education students was something that I felt was rewarding, and that's why I decided to do that switch. Just in the chat, if anyone could please share some of your experiences with special education, ELL students. What have you been experiencing? What are some, stories, or, what are you struggling with? What are your blows? I just kind of want to have a feel of who I'm catering this to. And you could just write it in the chat. I'll read them, or one of the chairperson could go into it and kind of like let me know. Okay, I got it. A 3 ELs. Do we need a 5th grade, 3rd or 5th? Okay. So you have a level of different grade levels that you're dealing with. Okay, Susan. Anyone else? Do you have special education in the past? It doesn't have to be this year, just any experiences with special education students. Okay. Let's see. Anybody else write in the chat? So basically today, I'm just gonna go over different aspects of special education, strategies, and just some, strategies that you could use within the classroom. And so basically supporting students in the classroom, that's how I'm gonna get started. I'm not gonna read every single thing that I wrote, but the presentation will be shared with you all. So just in case you want to refer back to it, all my experiences are in Passaic. So a lot of the resources I'm sharing with you are resources that were shared with me through my district and my co-teachers and any administrators. So, oh my God, sorry, I keep doing that.
I just want to share, Stephanie, someone else wrote in the chat. They have 5 MLs with special needs. 3 of them are in self-contained classrooms.
Okay, yes. So I've always worked in class support. I worked 1 year as I took a maternity leave in Fort Lee, and I did have self-contained, and teaching various grades in one classroom could be very challenging. So these, strategies will definitely help you. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous. So, oh my God, I keep clicking away. So definitely use sentence stems consistently as you're introducing, teaching EL students, special education students. A lot of the strategies you could use just for special ed students, or even if you don't have special ed students, it's useful for ELL students. But when you have a combination, it's just like you have to kind of be more mindful, right? It's important to really know the students, incorporate vocabulary that is suitable for all levels. So you're not going to give an L1 sentence stem to an L3 or L4. So you kind of have to kind of tier it and be very mindful when you're creating these sentence stems for the students. If needed, add picture prompts with the sentence stems. That always helps. Visuals, just help the students to speak. That's very key when catering to these students. Do you guys have any questions? No? Okay. So also by giving sentence stems, by giving the student a framework for sharing, you show them the correct sentence structure and give them a chance to practice. Also, it allows them time to think about the content of their responses. Okay, and also give them wait time when they're doing this. Let them process it. If you need to, you could give them the sentence stem and kind of like relate it in Spanish and then transfer over it to English so that they kind of understand what is the sentence stem. Okay, so provide a language-rich environment, right? Be intentional, include a variety of opportunities for students to listen, speak, read, and write, but not also listen just to the teacher, give them different audios, have students, speak to them and write with them and just have a variety, not always coming from the teacher, because they learn best when they, work with other students. This can include anchor charts, music, read alouds, and in writing and math, science notebooks, include sentence stems also. These things, plus all the literacy stations you might already do, will give your special education EL practice with authentic language and keep them engaged while doing it. Okay, you guys as educators, you probably do all of this already, but it's just a reminder to be like very mindful when you're doing it so that you're making sure that you're catering to all the different ELs, all the levels. If I'm talking fast, tell me to slow down, please.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay. Also, explicitly teach new vocabulary. I know we have to teach vocabulary is very important. I just attended a SIOP training with my district, and they said it's important to have tiered word walls, vocabulary, introduce them to the EL students and special education students, right? So tier 1 is simple, tier 2, and keep building. Also, when you're doing word walls, it will help, it will benefit you to add an image with the word so that, maybe if they can't even identify it, at least they could look at the picture and they can make those connections and relations. Okay, allow students to practice using it and illustrate it. So it's just not even, I put a picture here. I don't know if you really could see it, but it's like the word, define it, use it, relate it, draw it. You probably already do this, but just looking how other teachers do it might benefit you. Maybe what I do, you might do it different, and it's just sharing different ideas is very important. One method I use when I taught two-way dual language was the graphic below. We would write the word in the middle, then define the word, use it in a sentence, illustrate it, and then write words that were synonyms. Also have the students create their own notebooks and have them build, every time you introduce a new word, have them do this into a notebook so that by the end of the year, they have something that they could carry on with them for the following year. It's like their own resource and they'll take ownership of it because they created it. So that's another idea. Provide visual support. I know everybody does this. Just be very mindful, when teaching science experiments, have pictures for each step of the experiment along with written directions. Teaching poems, maybe use a puppet or different pictures to help support various words. When teaching classroom expectations, you could even take pictures of the actual students demonstrating the expectations, just it's important to have an enrichment of images, like a load of pictures and vocabulary. ELL students, not only do they need that support, but once you have a special education, a SPED student, that's EL, so they're having two different challenges in their life. It's not only one, not knowing the language. Now that you bring in a disability, so they need more, how would I say that? They need more strategies, they need more opportunities for them to be successful. When teaching expectations, try to have a photograph for the students demonstrating what the expectation is. Another great way to provide visual support through thematic word walls with photos or pictures for math, science, and social studies. Use also visual support also means modeling. It's important to always model, have, the word walls, images. That's very important for special education. Allow time for group work, right? Students, it's peer to peer. They learn more from each other, and they tend to relate more to one another versus the teacher just working with the teacher constantly. Groups feel less intimidating. They might be, they might be willing to share more with students in their classroom. Also, I put to assist students and you could create conversation stems to make it easier for the students to engage in conversations. Have that ready, you could post it in the classroom or have it individualized for them, because like I said earlier, L1 students, L2, L3, L4s, they need a variety of different, like you can't give them all the same. You have to differentiate so that you meet the needs of all your ELs. Respect the silent period. You know how sometimes us as educators, we kind of get frustrated when they're not replying to us and like, oh, you just want a response from them. Respect their silence period. Once they feel comfortable enough, they will start talking. But even if they talk to you in their native language, allow them to, and kind of like meet one-on-one, guide them one-on-one. Okay, this is what you're trying to say. This is how you say it, and just model how to say it. Or, like I said, pair them with a student that's able to guide them also. But don't get frustrated when they're just looking at you with a blind, like a blank face, because they're still trying to process the information, and they'll feel more comfortable if you respect that from them, from my experiences. Like I said, it's important to create an environment where they feel safe. Use games, music, hands-on experiences for authentic learning. I know as educators, we do this all the time. We incorporate hands-on games, any way that's gonna help them, close those gaps, right? So hands-on games, music, give them enrichment of different things and opportunities for them to excel. Okay, any questions? Do you guys want me to slow down? Am I going too fast? But I know we started a little late, so I just want to kind of like go through all the slides and then we could stop after and just have that conversation, or you guys could ask me questions.
Feel free to drop, feel free to drop any questions in the chat and I'll just let Stephanie know.
Thank you so much. Regularly check for understanding. I know like sometimes we have to go based on a pacing guide and we feel that we have to be very fast paced. We have to constantly check if they understand, right? When you see constantly blank faces, we need to stop, right? Stop, let's see, is this child processing this? You can also use nonverbal cues like thumbs up. They don't always have to speak, but at least, just a check, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in between, and going, in the presentation, I'll give you some specific strategies for everything. Okay, so here it goes. Instruction, components, and features. So I'm gonna go into this. If I go into it, are they able to see my screen? Can you guys see it? Okay, so here are strategies and activities. It's like preparation, and I don't wanna go into everything, but this is PSYOP, components and features, clearly defined content, language objective, supplementary, adaptation of content. So it gives you some of the ideas. Add a glossary or word bank, alternative materials, differentiate instruction, enlarge adaptive text, building backgrounds, right? Background knowledge, anticipation guide, KW chart. So these are just examples of what you should use, or strategies and activities that you could use as you're instructing. So I give you, building background. And once again, these resources are provided to me from my district. These are all from PDs I had, or just, from my co-teachers, my colleagues. I don't want to take, that I created this. This is all from PDs. So building background knowledge. So these are different activities and strategies that you could use, comprehensible input, so this is everything, that will be useful for you in the classroom, acting out a problem, in math, they could act it out, or even if you want them to express themselves, they could role play, right? Sometimes they don't feel comfortable talking, but at least if they act something out, you'll be able to kind of understand if they understand, you could get understanding if they understand the content or what you're trying to teach them. Interactions, card games. I don't want to read every single one of them because you guys could actually, it'll be shared with you guys. Practice application, bingo, card games. So these are just all different activities and strategies that you could use. Now I need to go back, and please do not laugh at me. I do not know how to clock. Let me see.
Maybe hit the tab on the top that says sped with the PowerPoint.
Let me try.
Right next to lesson plans.
Okay, maybe up there. Let me check. Sorry. Oh, it's taking me somewhere else. Hold on. Let me try this. Oh, right here. All right. Sorry, guys. Now I know where to go. Thank you so much for helping me. All right, so these are more strategies. This is a glossary of strategies and activities. So it's just acting out a problem, agreement circles, alternative assessments, anticipatory chat, guide. So these are just different things that you could use, implement in your classroom to help your special education L students. I don't want to go through everything. Do you agree with me, or should I go through every component of it?
We can at the end, we can browse more if we have time.
Okay, I'll give everyone a chance to look through all the resources.
There's 33 pages, so that's a great resource, and I like it that it's linked right in your PowerPoint. I dropped the PowerPoint in the chat, so everyone has a chance to grab a copy. And
okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Here is academic achievement support. It's just more preparation, practice and application, interaction, building background, comprehensible input, review and assessment. So you're seeing the same categories, but they have different strategies and different content information that you could use within the classroom. So I'll go back. All right, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so this right here too is forms of scaffolding, how you could scaffold the information for the students. So we could close those gaps, right? Because when you're introducing new material, the students tend sometimes to be lost, right? So sensory, illustrations, the purpose is making connections between them. ELs can transfer these strategies to other classes to establish comprehensible input. So it's just, I'm giving you so many resources that you could pick and choose what fits in your classroom, right? What do you need to cater to your students? All right, the next one. Here, I know this is a little hard to see, but once you open it, when you open the presentation, you could definitely read it. But I found this resource when I was looking for information to gather together for all of you. And I thought it was really good. Eliminate answer choices. So it gives you more a snippet, right? Things that you could do, it explains it, gives you the definition, and gives you examples. So this is a great tool if you just want to look at something really quick. Okay, I need, reduce assignments, spelling assistance. And it's just a great resource to use, in a blink of an eye, right? If you need something really quick, and it kind of explains everything to you. Okay, so this is a lot of information also. So I broke down all these slides, instructional strategies. So these are things that you could do instructional wise. It's a lot, but once again, you're taking this information and you're using what meets the needs of your students or even your classroom. Here's accommodation, instructional materials. So it's just more information. I just wanted to provide all of you with so much that you could pick and choose. At the end of the day, what can I, what is going to benefit me and my students? Presentation accommodations allow a student to, listen to audio recordings, work with fewer items per page, have a designated reader, instructions orally, record a lesson instead of taking notes. These are things that you could do to help your students. Response accommodations allow a student to give responses in a form, oral or written, dictate answers to a scribe, capture responses on audio recorder. So setting accommodations allow a student to. So these are just all things that you can incorporate. Timing accommodations, take more time to complete a task or test, have extra time to process oral information and directions, take frequent breaks, such as, after completing. And I know most of these strategies, you guys already implement them, but you might see something new that you could take and, you could implement that. Scheduling accommodations allow students to organization skills. I know personally with my special education students, they have a hard time being organized. So these strategies, accommodations could help your students. I definitely, I put it in here? Highlight, help coordinate assignments in a book or planner. That's a big one for me. Right now I'm teaching 8th grade, so organizing their stuff is very important and they're like scattered everywhere. So it's like, for them to be organized, it definitely helps them. Modifications, assignment modifications, complete fewer different homework assignments, write shorter papers. Remember, as a special education student, EL student, combining those two challenges that they're facing, you'll know if they grasp the concept in the first paragraph, right? You don't need a whole page of them writing. You'll know, right? And if a math homework assignment, if the gen ed teacher gives them 10, your student, you can minimize that to 3 or 4. You'll know if they understand in those. They don't need 10 problems to demonstrate their learning. Curriculum modifications allow students to learn different materials, such as continue to work on multiplication, get graded, assess using a different standard, because you don't want to hold them to the same standard as a gen ed student, but of course you want them to be challenged. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to take away from their learning. You just want to give them what they need so that they learn, they grasp what you're teaching them. Thank you. So if you guys have any questions or take time to explore all the different, strategies, just explore all the information I gave you. And if
that was awesome. That was a lot. Aphrodite, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, said this is an incredible collection of resources.
Thank you. And this is just like from my district, like this is things that were given to me, and being able to share that with all of you, that's just like, that's awesome.
Do we want to take a few minutes to ask Stephanie any questions, or a few minutes to look through the resources? Maybe you can open up the presentation. I'll drop the link again. That's the link to her presentation. Browse it, and then in a few minutes I'll drop the link for the PD where you'll give us your feedback. Susan has a question.
Okay.
Hi,
how are you?
thank you so much for doing all that preparation. That's like tons of work, I could see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I was interested in taking this kind of webinar because I am an ESL teacher in Riverdale. Actually, it's Morris County, but I always like to participate in other chapters, meetings, if there's a topic that I'm interested in.
Okay.
And so I have, as part of my my role this year, I have a group of ESL students that are also special ed. They're in a self-contained classroom for most of the day for all their academics. And they come to me for approximately 40 minutes every day. That's it. Just so and it's right after recess, which makes it even more challenging.
So yeah, so you're not wasting, but you're using those 40 minutes. Out of those 40 minutes, you're really instructing, maybe I would say with a self-contained 20 minutes.
If I'm lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah, because you have to wind them down.
And I share a classroom with somebody. There is a what is it called? Like a privacy,
But it's overstimulating for them.
Right. So they hear what's going on with the other teacher, who's using a smart board and, maybe putting on a video. So the point is that I don't have any experience with special ed students, with teaching special ed students. When I came to the district just 2 years ago, these students were special ed already. And, I identified them as ESL students as well. So I'm really, I'm challenged as to how to teach them. It is quite different than teaching more traditional ESL students. I use all of the strategies. I try, to slow everything down, do a lot of repetition, but I find it's frustrating for me to really keep them engaged and have them really learn anything. We have to repeat things so many times. It's really hard. So do you have any suggestions? I'm going to close my door because I don't know if you hear my dog barking in the background. Sorry.
So I recommend that activities be hands-on, right? You want them to really focus on what you're teaching them. What grade level?
Third, fourth, and I have 1/3, 1/4, and 1/5. They're all together.
So anything hands-on, like, are you mainly focusing on ELA, or what is your main focus? Like, what are you teaching them?
Yeah, so I'm teaching them, well, that's the other thing. I mean, it's ELA, but I don't have any curriculum to use. And I don't really have a great, either textbook series or vocabulary builder, anything that is geared towards ELLs and special ed students. Does something like that exist where, they're doing listening, speaking, reading, and writing for multiple grades? It's really hard to do individual teaching with the 3 kids because there's no aide in my class. It's just me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely very challenging, especially you have all those other stimulating things playing a role on it, right? They're hearing someone else. So they're going to want to pay attention to what's happening next to them versus being engaged to what you're trying to teach them. I would say definitely hands-on things, like things that tangible, like actual books, or if they like listening to books, maybe play a story for them, on the computer, one story for all, right? And based on what their capabilities are, differentiate the task, maybe, draw pictures. I know most of them like to draw pictures, make words with Play-Doh. I don't know what level they are. Yes, they're in 3rd grade, but they're probably in the kindergarten level. So you probably have to, take it back to kindergarten. Play-Doh, or, one thing that always helped me, I used to put like shaving cream into a baggie, tape it, and, had them write their words, like, their sight words, and just have them write it on the, in the shaving cream, and then maybe transfer that onto paper. They could write the word and make it a sentence or illustrate it with a picture. That's what I kind of recommend, have them listen to that audio and then engage their activities based on what they're capable of doing.
I was wondering if anyone yes, thank you for the ideas. I was wondering if anyone else, has a suggestion as to you know, is there some kind of series that they follow that works well for upper elementary ESL that's like, you know, simple enough that, you know, for special ed, you know, kids, there's something that I do use. It's really old, but it's not that robust. It's called Spin. It used to be out years ago. I actually think I got a demo copy of it at one of the TESOL events from a vendor like years ago. But I feel like, you know, it works a little bit. But does anyone else use any kind of program that they recommend for, you know, upper elementary ELL, you know, practice vocabulary and grammar and, you know, all the fundamental stuff? Anybody?
I wish I could help you more, but in my district in Passaic, everything is given to us. So everything's like, you know, district based. So it's like, I could tell you to use it, but if your district doesn't invest in it, you know, it's like, it's not for you to purchase on your own. It's like Passaic gives us everything.
So I have a small budget and I can kind of pick and choose what I want.
Okay, that's great. That's definitely great. Or in Gillingham works well. I don't know if that's something, you know, their resources, you know, that definitely works.
Don't I have to be trained for that?
You do,
that?
but you could like kind of like Google it, right? Go into the internet. There's different aspects that you can incorporate on your own, like, you know, the red words and, you know, just the different components of it. You could probably incorporate that in your class.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have used Raz Kids.
Raz
Right.
Kids too. That's something
good.
that we use in our district.
Okay. I also sometimes use Brain Pop ELL, which is good. They have a speaking
They
component.
like Brain Pop. They definitely
Yeah.
do like Brain Pop.
Yeah. What is ELII.com? What's that?
Yes, it's Ellie.com. It used to be called ESL Library. I teach high school ESL, and this is more for like my newcomers or my level 1, level 2 students. It used to be called ESL Library. It has stories, it has grammar activities. You need a subscription, so your district needs to purchase a subscription for you, but it's a really good resource. Sometimes if you Google ESL Library, they have like free things on the internet, but it'll link you to maybe an activity that you would probably have to pay for it or be a member. It might say login, use your teacher login or something like that. But we like it. So it's ELLII.com, Ellie.com. And it used to be called ESL Library until probably last year where they changed it to Ellie.
Thank you. That's great. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It's just a challenge because I came in as an ESL teacher, not a special ed teacher. You know, so I'm expected to know how to teach special ed kids. It's hard.
Yes, and nonetheless, you have self-contained students, which are more like their disability is more severe than the students I deal with because I have in-class support. They're integrated with the general general ed students.
Yeah.
Anyone
Well,
else?
thank you for your suggestions, everybody.
I was
Yes.
going to add, if I've been teaching, I started off as an ESL teacher 12 years ago, but all of my kids, but the most part were students with special needs who are also Ls. I don't know if you're able to, I know time is always difficult, but collaborating and just getting to know the special ed teachers and asking for things that they, strategies or scaffolds that they use for those students might help you incorporate into your ESL lessons, depending on what the needs of your students are. So that might be helpful as well.
Yeah, just to add to what she's saying, you could actually co-plan with their self-contained teacher, what activities they're doing in class. Maybe she could give you what they're working on the day so that you don't have to create something different and you could cater that to, you know, to ESL. See, what are you working on in class? You know, can I bring it? You know, is there something that they need to complete? And just like build that relationship with their, you know, regular teachers. And that's a great help. You know, we need each other. We can't do this on our own, you know.
That's a great suggestion. And that's what I do in my current school too. I'm hired as an ESL teacher, but half of my students are students with special needs. So to whatever degree I can, I kind of look at them like, I'm here to help you as well. So anything that you're working on that I could build upon, whatever foundation they're already learning in their classrooms, will only help if I'm reinforcing that with, you know, along with language building and
Stop
my
talking.
ESL. So that I definitely would recommend collaborating with your special ed teachers.
And that way you don't have to create new things, right?
Yeah.
You're working on the things that they're actually currently doing in the classroom. So it's a win-win situation. You collaborate with them, and then you don't have to kind of figure out, okay, what am I going to do with them today? At least, you know, you're building on to what they're learning in the classroom.
And I was the one who suggested reading A to Z, because that was one of the things that I found. When I collaborated with the mainstream teachers or a special ed teacher, many times I was able to find the content on a lower reading level using RAS kits. And so then the kids went into, and also I would try to find out in advance what they were going to be doing, so that when the students were in their mainstream classroom, they actually had that background knowledge already.
Yeah.
So sometimes that gives them more buy-in when you say to them, look, you're not doing this in class yet, but you're going to do this next week. So if you read this today, when your teacher asks if anybody knows anything about this topic, you can be the shining star because you actually already know something about it. And so you're basically engaging the students on something that they're going to need. And when you relay that information to them, you know, then you get a little more buy-in, which, you know, sometimes
and it also
helps with the
it
attention.
prepares them mentally, right, for
Yep.
what's coming, and they don't freeze. I definitely do that with my 8th grade students when we're starting a new unit, the vocabulary. I give them the vocabulary ahead of time. We go over the words, so that way they're able to engage in conversations when it's brought up to them when they're in the class with the gen ed students. So it gives them builds their confidence when, you know, and it gives them a chance to be part of those discussions. And they feel good about themselves when they're prepared. Some of them do it, some of them don't, you know, but that is very important because I definitely do that. Or even if like they're getting a new passage, this is what we're reading, like you said, next week, just really go through it with them, go over character, setting, or whatever is the focus on.
And also sometimes trying to find the information in their native language too. That's something that's beneficial, especially if it can be auditory where they can listen to it, a video or something.
So like this year, my district, we're using Amplify, and they have that switch, like you could click Spanish, you could click English. Some of the passages are not in Spanish, but you could, at least they get it ahead of time. The questions are, you know, translated for them in Spanish. So see, everything is given to us. We don't have to like think out of the box, you know, with the content. But
That's lovely.
yes, you know, for ELA and for science, we use Amplify. It's a little rigorous for some of the students, but having those, you know, conversations before they actually get to it is very important. I personally have not administered the alternate access test. Has any of you? I haven't. I've never done that. Well, all of ours are done, you know.
Yeah, alternate access is really for severely disabled students, like would not be in a, probably in a mainstream school. Usually they're perhaps students who are sent to, you know, a particular special education program. Yeah, out of district. That's what I was thinking.
Okay, out of district.
It's been a while since I was in district. I'm trying to think, what was that school called?
Yeah, yeah. We usually never, like, I don't even think we have ever administered it. I've done the kindergarten one. I've done, you know, the online one, but never alternate access test.
So this is again in my small district. it was really up to me to decide like what to order, like which tests, right? So one of those three, like, well, really two of those three special ed students, I feel like would benefit better from having the alternate access. It was just kind of my own kind of judgment. They both took the regular access last year, and, you know, of course they tanked. I mean, you know, I'm not sure how much better they'll do on the alternate access, but I feel like maybe there's a chance that they could exit ESL, you know, a better chance if they take the alternate access. I don't really know. I just feel like it's a losing battle giving them the regular access. So that's why I decided to order the alternate for those two. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
No, that you can't do that. There are specific qualifications that the students must meet for alternate access. So if you look those up on the state website, it's unlikely that students who are actually in your district are going to meet that criteria. However, if it's written in their IEP, you can remove one of the components, one of the domains of the access test. So if their weakest area is writing, you can have their score evaluated on the other three sections. So speaking, listening, and reading. Or if, because this is what I found when I was teaching, was it was either reading or writing that they really tanked in, and yet their speaking and listening was, you know, at, you know, maybe a 4 or a 5 sometimes. And then the reading and writing were like 2 and 3, which was where that indication to me, like that was some of the proof that I used for having students classified, was this disparity between the oral language and the written or read language.
Yeah.
So Susan, you might want to look into that, or if you have further questions, we can talk, and I can guide you where to look for that information.
I thought I found it because I did do the research. There's some kind of like tree, you know, where it asks you a question, and then they say, if yes, go here, if no, go here. Is that what you're referring to? I don't know. It reminds me of like a tree with different questions, you know, that they had. Because other than that, I didn't find anything more specific about what to use. But yeah, because I haven't placed any order yet, I would love to kind of look into it in more detail with you if that's an option.
Sure.
And
Thank
then
you
what
so
are they taking also for their standardized tests? I think you could only administer alternate if they're taking the DLMs. And if they're during
Yes.
standardized testing, if they're taking it regular like everyone else, then they don't qualify for alternate access.
No, they're definitely taking the DLM. I know that for sure.
Okay. And usually what I have seen in my years of teaching special education, if they are special education and ELL students, 90% of the time, they never test out of, you know, the bilingual, that they stay an L student because they can't pass the access test. And then at a certain point, they just, you know, we just transfer them if they age, like how, I don't even know how to say it, but if they're in a bilingual setting, like in a ESL bilingual setting for more than, is it 4 years or 5 years?
It's 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Five is
Once they
really
hit that
like
5,
the cut.
they just take them out because they just, obviously they have the disability that they can't pass it. So they'll eventually get out of.
Oh, is that a state law? I didn't know that. That if they're in it for 4 or 5 years?
It's not
Yeah.
it's not a state law, but that's how our district runs it. I think it's different for each district.
Well, it's actually not, but a lot of times
Okay.
that's what happens. Legally, one of the things you can do is have the parents remove the student from
Gotcha.
ESL services by making a written request. And when I was teaching, I did that maybe 2 times in my, you know, like number of years, where we said to the parent, you know, the child's not going to pass the access test, but because we were like pulling the student from a more viable learning situation, we
Yeah.
decided that, it would be best not to pull the student from their primary learning to an ESL class because it was a pull-out situation, and had the parents sign them out. Now, when a parent signs them out, they still have to take the access test,
Mhm.
but they do not have to be in the ESL or bilingual classroom.
And then
So is there a certain period of time that they have to be in ESL before you can talk to the parent about that?
No,
no, but it's based on data, right? So
Yeah.
if you know the
Okay.
student is talking in English, answering you only in English, not speaking in their native language, and everything they do is English, so that's where you, as long as you have the documentation to justify what you want to do for this child, data speaks, and that's what you need to, you definitely have to document everything. And it's like you at that point, you're a lawyer, right? Based on all this is what the student needs, or this is, and in my district, L1s and L2s, they're instructed in Spanish, L3s and L4s are only in English. So by the time they get on a level 3 or level 4, they're in an English, it's an ESL classroom, but they're being educated in English. I don't know how your district does it.
In mine, you mean?
Yeah.
It's just an English ESL program. We have less than 20 students. There was no need to do a waiver or anything like that. And I'm the only ESL teacher, and they never had an ESL teacher before. They just hired one, namely me, last year. So
Okay,
they're kind
so
of
these
relying on
students-
me, to make all these decisions. So yeah, go ahead, Kathleen.
No, I was going to say, because that's very similar to the district that I taught in myself, where I would have like between 18 and 24 students from K to 8. So
Yeah, that's mine, K to 8.
right. So they are in the mainstream all the time, but the fact that you haven't been there prior to you, they were exclusively serviced by special education. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah.
And how I would look at how long they've been in English only American education. Also,
Their whole lives. They were born here in the
Okay.
United States.
And what grade are they in now?
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
And they had, I know that they got their IEPs when they were young, in the district. 2 out of 3 of them. They've been in the same district since kindergarten. It was clear, that they needed to be in a self-contained room. It just happens to be Spanish is their native language.
Mhm.
The parents don't speak much English. So when I came, okay, well, they need to be ESL students as well. But they're never going to test out. So I think it would be, more beneficial for them to be with their special ed teacher, that extra period that they're currently being pulled out with me.
And I have a question. Would it be like, I think it would be beneficial, instead of pulling them, pushing in? Do they allow that in your district? Push in and working with the,
Yes.
in their actual setting. I think that would benefit them, instead of pulling them out, taking them away from the environment that they know. I think you will be more beneficial to them if you pushed in versus pulling them out.
Yeah, I did that last year. It really is dependent on the scheduling.
Of course.
Right. But if the teacher's open to it as well, sometimes they're not. But it could be very beneficial for the kids. And, if the teacher's willing to learn a little bit about, from my point of view, as an ESL specialist. But that could be an option.
Yeah, and that way that you go in there, like her word walls, you could like add images to them, like do the different strategies within the classroom, so they have those resources and those that they could see throughout the day. Do you get what I'm saying? Versus you pulling them out and they're only getting those ESL resources when they see you. Incorporating those resources in their room, I think will benefit the students more. That's just with, from my experiences with ELL students and special education students. I think they will benefit more from you pushing in versus you pulling them out and giving and applying those strategies within their actual classroom.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I
thank you.
hope I've given you some things to think about.
You did. You gave us a lot of information, valuable information. Thank you, Kathleen,
Mhm.
for sharing your wealth of
Thank you so
knowledge
much.
with us also. I dropped the PD link. We just need your feedback. It's a Google form if you can fill it out. And at the end, it'll email you your PD certificate for today's session. If you need Stephanie's presentation again, I dropped it twice in the chat, but I can do it one more time. I think that's it. Yep.
Do I need to fill it out also, the form?
Yes, if you want to get a
Okay.
PD certificate.
Okay. Yeah.
You present it.
Domain 4, I could use that.
Awesome. If anyone has any questions and wants to hang out, stay after. If not, this concludes our November PD, special ed strategies for our L students who are classified as both L and special ed. We want to thank Stephanie for sharing all these great resources, for being with us this hour. And I want to thank everyone who joined us.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. So,
and if I don't see, well, I won't see everyone. So happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday.
Yes.
Thank you. You as well. I have a quick question on your presentation. I opened it